Ready?
It is once in a lifetime achievement that you could expect to. And if it doesn't work, we walk away. If it works, we stay there. As told to me by Dr. Kalam, it's very easy to manage expensive schools. I was like, okay, that's a scientist talking. And I said, so there are no poor people. Good, that was very quick.
Welcome to At Work on Connected to India, a podcast where we delayer ideas, explore concepts, and bring to you conversations with individuals and professionals who are doing exceptional work and shaping our lives. Today, we are joined by an extraordinary achiever. First generation educationist and entrepreneur, he has won the Pravasi Bharatiya Samman Award at the Pravasi Bharatiya Divas 2025, held in Bhubaneshwar, Odisha. It is an absolute privilege to welcome Atul Temurnikar on At Work on Connected to India. Atul, welcome to At Work and congratulations for winning the Pravasi Bharatiya Samman Award.
Thank you so much.
Just to give our viewers a context, Pravasi Bharatiya Samman Award is given by the Government of India to overseas Indians or to organizations which are being run by overseas Indians to honor their contribution in their area they specialize in or their profession. Atul, you won in the area of education, right? So tell us, it's a question I don't ask, that what does it feel? But this time it is merited. What did it feel like when you won the Pravasi Bharatiya Samman Award?
I think the feeling was exceptional. I can't describe the feeling. But the fact that the award is presented by the President of India on behalf of the Government and Republic of India, I think it is once in a lifetime achievement that you could expect to. And I'm also thanking the Republic of India, especially Minister of External Affairs, for giving this recognition.
Yeah, I mean, to give a context to our viewers, these are the stories which must be told across the world because there are 31.7 million people of Indian origin living across the world. Every year, Ministry of External Affairs, Government of India gives these awards to not more than 7 to 8 people. And Atul, you were one amongst the 31.7 million. So I'm sure it's a matter of great pride for yourself and the family.
It is indeed. I cannot deny the fact, but I think it's also equally, I would say, a highly privileged kind of position because we know that there are, among these 31.7 million, there are hundreds and thousands of people who are doing equally or much better work.
Atul, you started your career in 1985, worked with HCL, and then were the country manager for IBM in Singapore. And it was 2001 when the entrepreneurial spirit kicked in. What triggered it?
So, during this 90s, late 90s, I think about 98, 99, if you remember, there was a Y2K bug that went around.
Yeah.
And that actually put all the IT companies on, great opportunities and also a lot of corporates under a lot of stress. During that time, I had a choice whether to continue here or go back to US. But I think when I looked at the current social landscape here, I think a common cry for everyone was the fact that the systems that we have in India were not compatible or not similar to the systems that we had here. And as a result, people who could not afford the international education, particularly given the high fee structures, they felt that there was a need for us to have a Indian curriculum school. And that was an opportunity that I kind of tried it out. I thought, let's take an idea, let's see what it works. But when I got a very positive response from the Ministry of Education, I thought this was worth putting in the money and the effort to try and see what solution we can do. The idea was very clear. Can we create something which can help our transitioning audiences, various expatriates, to come and stay here for 2-3 years and then go back, but yet the children have a continuous education? And as a result of that, this school actually came about.
Okay. And give us an idea of where do the Global Schools Foundation stands now?
Our growth really was very highly driven on word of mouth. Our friends in Malaysia, in Japan, in other countries came to know about the school and they were like, why don't we come and do the same thing here? So literally in the first 2-3 years, I was constantly exploring how do we get there. Mm-hmm. One opportunity led to other opportunity led to other. And so in 2006, the first overseas schools for GIS were actually set up in Japan and Malaysia. And
Singapore.
Singapore one was the first one.
Yeah.
The second and third came up in Malaysia and Japan.
Yeah.
And it sort of gave a big sigh of relief for everybody who was a relocating mindset, who was sure that they will not be continuing in that country for long, given their commitments and professional commitments. And I think it was a big sigh of relief for them. So having done that, I think eventually it became not just a school for an Indian diaspora, but very quickly morphed into a school for anybody, any citizen of Asia or Middle East. And they obviously saw a lot of benefit by way of the strong curriculum credentials, strong science and maths, English medium, of course. So we immediately saw a lot of take-up happening in Japan, not just from expat community, Asian expat community, but also from Japanese. Similarly, we saw a similar take-up happening in Malaysia, where Malaysian citizens started coming to our schools. And we quickly also added options of Cambridge curriculum, IB curriculum. So in a way, the school had multiple options. So choices were available. Parents who were thinking about, if I look at the Indian diaspora, they were looking at, okay, let's spend a few years here and then we go back to India. This was a perfect solution because we offered CBSE. For those expats who were coming here, were like, okay, we're not sure whether we're going to go back to India. Let's continue international education. The Global Indian International School came in handy because it allowed not just the curriculum, but also all the paraphernalia of Indian culture and taking it forward. As far as Asian expats were concerned, I think they loved the IB and the Cambridge curriculums that we offered. And the fact that our schools were not the most expensive schools, I think that really was a softening effect on their budgets. And as a result of that, I think we grew exponentially among other communities as well.
Yeah, I would say one of the outside view is that you saw there was an American school, there's a British school and international schools of different countries. And now you were perhaps one of the first ones to say this is Global Indian International School. And you had non-Indians also wanting to send their kids to GIS, which I think is again a remarkable achievement. So you're from Nagpur originally. Give me an idea. And I feel that from all the leaders, it is important to understand what are those values which you learned from your early life, which has kept you in good stead and helped you become a global leader and an educationist, like I was saying earlier.
All the values you pick up, most of it you pick up in the schools, particularly from your teachers. And one of the values I would say is, to be independent, to be an independent thinker and to be on your own. Never ever in my journey, I was ever worried about I have to depend on somebody. So you obviously have to be completely on your toes to make sure whatever other needs, whether it's financial, whether it's other matters, are being completely taken care of. And you start getting into a mode where you start thinking about it all the time.
Atul, you have often credited Singapore being pivotal to your professional growth. So what is it about Singapore's ecosystem that has inspired you to grow your company?
Many things.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, you mentioned about, you decided to start in Singapore. I'll tell you very interesting. One of my colleagues who was a minister in Maharashtra, he had come down here. And I said, you know what, I'm not very sure. There's a big gray area about whether an Indian school is welcome. So this gentleman went and met Mr. Ang Eng Hen, who's now the defense minister. He was a young minister of state that time. And we asked Mr. Ang, is it possible for us to have
Which
an Indian
year
school?
are you talking about?
2001.
Okay.
Is it possible for us to have an Indian school for Indian community? And he gave the same answer. He said, we have an American school for Americans. We have an Australian school for Australians.
Yeah.
We have a British school. Why not? We should have an Indian school as well. That gave us the big confidence that we are welcome. Second thing was, when I first applied to the Ministry of Education for the trade license or the school license, I was amazed at the fact that it was such a clean process. All questions were asked clearly. All answers were given to them. I did not see a single officer. I got a whole license on the email in 3 months of coordination. It, to me, was a very pleasant surprise. There's no doubt that Singapore is the best place to do business. There's no doubt. I think the rankings I would absolutely vouch for. But the fact that I started the school in Singapore, what itself, the reason why I am received the Pravasi Award today. Had it been in any other country, the trajectory would have been very different.
So Singapore also has a reputation of excellence in education, right? When you were setting up your schools, obviously that must have been a point of inspiration. So what did you learn from the Singapore system, and did you think that you could imbibe some things in terms of technology and setting the value system with GIS schools, which was different from what existed in the market? And second point, which you said earlier, is the accessibility in terms of financial accessibility. How did you go about setting some of those principles and strategies for your schools?
So let me address the second part first.
Yeah.
When you look at schools, typically schools are a function of cost structures. So if I were to say in simple terms, you have to first decide what fee you want to operate in and then work backwards. As told to me by Dr. Kalam, it's very easy to manage expensive schools because the rich have more options. The rich never have a problem paying the fees. So you can charge any fees. But we don't want to be that. We want to be something that the community can afford. So we do the reverse, which is we fix what the community can afford. And after that, we work backwards and say, how do you now create a financial model that will work? And if it doesn't work, we walk away. If it works, we stay there. And I think then we make sure. The second part, which is to your first part, is, Singapore is always been ranking consistently very high on PISA ratings, which are benchmarking public and private schools in every country. What we have learned from them is that when you deliver the curriculum, it has to be done with military precision. Of course, you can make it all-rounded, you can make it holistic, you can add a lot of ECS, ECS, but whatever you do must be dealt with a clear plan, a clear strategy, and a clear execution. I think that's what we learned from Singapore.
Atul, you mentioned APJ Abdul Kalam. So I must interrupt you and ask you, how was your meeting with him, and what is it that you discussed?
I think meeting Dr. Kalam is...
when was it? What was the occasion? When did you meet him?
The first time I met him, when he visited the Global Indian International School.
Okay.
He was on a state visit here as the President of India. A day before that visit was to happen and he was to meet the children, when he called me first, he said, okay, come, I want to talk to you and understand the background. So I went to give him a brief. He was staying at the Shangri-La VIP area, and so he called me to his presidential suite. And the first thing he said is, temperature is very cold. Please make it 26 degrees. I was like, okay, that's a scientist talking. The second thing he said was, okay, tell me what you're doing. And I explained. And he said, at the end of it, he said two things to me. He said, the rich never have a problem. Is the rich your target segment or the other segment? I said, it's the other segment. It's very good. Second thing he said is, are you doing anything for the poor here? And I said, so there are no poor people. And then he said, no, you don't know. Go and find. And that actually led to a lot of CSR activities that we did. But I think he gave us that sense that, look, you got to do things for the poor who don't have the means. Second thing is, he incidentally visited us thrice. First time under a state visit as President of India. Second and third, he came on private visits. But in each visit, we managed to get his audience.
Wow.
And he was so good with the children. The time I spent with him, the 3 visits and the side discussions with him during that time, absolutely is permanently etched in my memory. In fact, his ideas actually led us to set up a tribal school in India in association with the state government and the central government.
You have often spoken about giving back to the society. What does giving back mean, number one? And number two, Singapore has got one of the best philanthropic programs. The whole giving back is very well structured. How do you bring that into your schools across the world?
So under the Singapore philanthropic frameworks, under NCSS, there are many initiatives, many charities. I think there are 5,000 charities in Singapore, or maybe more. I think every charity has cut out itself in certain areas. Our definition of give back is identify an area or a spot where people need help. They're not asking for it. But if we can do that research and reach out to them and help in some way, typically what we do is we don't go to the end milestone. We actually work with organizations. So we work with SINDA, we work with other similar organizations, Narayana Mission, and a couple of others, where our students work with them to see what are the problems and challenges they have, and then try and find a solution for it.
Yeah.
And we encourage all students in our middle schools, high schools, to be able to do that as part of their community action service.
Yeah.
It's very easy to contribute money. It's more difficult to work with them to provide the means and the support that they want. And that is more challenging. That's where we encourage our students.
Yeah. And I assume you do this across the world.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's correct.
Yeah. And what has been your, what has influenced you when it comes to your family and other people, other influences like APJ Kalam is one of the examples you've given, which have driven you in this direction?
When I was growing up, my father was a mining engineer. So he noticed that in the mining industry, there used to be a lot of industrial accidents. So he decided to take something in his own hands, and he said, I'm going to write some small books in Hindi. And I will pass these books on to these, I would say, skilled workers and see whether we can educate them. Because there were no formal institutions educating these skilled workers. They were skilled, but they were uneducated. So that initiative that he did and eventually published about 20 books on safety and how to be safe and how do you provide a safe environment. I think it gave me a motivation that, that it was not called for, but he did it out of his own will, own volition. To me, that was a big, big motivation because it also allowed me to learn from the fact that there are people who need help. So the whole give back thing, I would say, very highly motivated by my father.
So 24 years, you have established this incredible brand called Global Indian International School. So many countries. You won the Pravasi Bharatiya Samman Award. What does Atul envision to do in the future? What is going to inspire you? What else do you want to achieve, Atul? It has to be more than opening more schools.
Yes, I think opening more schools is more about a growth subject.
Yeah.
Okay, I think every business has that. But to me, I think completing 25 years in the next 2 years is going to be a great milestone.
Yeah.
We started the whole foundation with zero capital, zero donation. And so for it to complete 25 years of its self-sustained journey is a biggest feat that we collectively together with our colleagues and our teachers and staff have achieved. Second is we look for what is the potential of a child. So grades, scores, assessments will all be, I would say, supplementaries. But the finding of the potential is a very integrated process. You need to have a very good understanding of the child. You need to understand the family background. And our teachers are in the best position to do it. So our emphasis is always in our framework. The potential plays a very important role. If we can give the correct support to every child in order to fuel that area of strength or the potential, it is a great example. We think our attention to every child is as good as it's only one child in the class. That's a personalization that we are achieving. Of course, we are using some technology to do that. But idea of personalizing to every child's journey and maximizing their potential, it's a dream for us. It's an ambition. And I think we live by it to make sure this is experienced by every child.
Listening to you, I feel if I was to ask you to divide how much of you is an educationist and how much is an entrepreneur, what would be that percentage?
I think both go hand in hand.
Yeah.
But, the entrepreneur piece is something that is essential for every good concept, for every good idea, for it to survive. But my lookout personally is more on what are those areas where we may be missing out. It is a revolving process. You have to constantly be on the lookout, what's happening around you, around the world, in your country, and then pick up cues from there and go back and keep tweaking your formulas so that the overall education that the child gets together with the competencies and skills is always prepared for the future. In a way, when we say future-proof, what we're saying is you may be today having a skills and competencies which are relevant today, but we'll teach you the methods and the mechanics of how you can acquire any other skills and competencies whenever you require in your future life.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great way to train these children.
Yeah. What would you say is the biggest challenge you are facing as an educationist? Because the whole society, the expectations, the skill sets required to succeed in society are also changing constantly. So what do you consider is the biggest challenge for the education system here and across the world?
I think two challenges, and there are many, but I would just focus on two. One is that, we have to really go by how parents think about it. But I think it's important to have parents understand their child's potential, to understand their strengths and weaknesses. And as Asian parents, we always tend to be tiger moms and tiger dads.
Yeah.
But it's important to sometimes allow a little bit of independence and a leash onto children to be able to discover themselves. It's one thing to say, I'm giving you a guidance and you follow the path. The other is to say, I'm giving you the support systems and the idea, but you think for yourself, what is good for you? If we can bring that way of working between parents and students, I think a big change will happen. The other part is really about finding good teachers. We always have a challenge. Not that we don't get it, but good teachers are hard to come by. Good teachers don't move too often. Well, we are very fortunate that as Global Schools Foundation, we get and attract very good talent, very highly skilled, great potential among them. And so we are very lucky, and we constantly strive to make sure that the journey we give our teachers is going to be unmatched in any organization. The mantra we've given to the teachers is, you are in your control. You decide what's best for the child. If you think something is best in the child's interest, just go ahead. No permissions required. And actually that surprises many people.
You did say earlier that as a kid, as a youngster, you were an independent thinker. How were you as a student? What kind of a student was Atul Temurnikar?
So I had two student journeys. One student journey was a school journey where I had been a topper all my life. And I was third topper in Maharashtra state board exams, the 12th grades, and fourth across Maharashtra, and third in Vidarbha. I was like 100 or 100 in all the key subjects.
Jesus.
So, and then my second journey started in my engineering, which I joined REC Nagpur, which is now called the Vishweshwaraya National Institute of Technology. I think there I took my competency to too much of a assumption that, I don't think we need to go through it. But of course, I think that key takeaway was you can't assume. You have to work hard, even in your engineering. It was a bit of pleasure and entertainment going side by side as compared to, because we suddenly got a newfound freedom, right?
Correct.
And it happens with every child when they go to universities. They're like, oh my God, there's nobody to look at me and I'm on my own. So you do all those late nights and all that. But I think key point was, even in your engineering, every single subject matters.
Yeah, without a doubt. Well, congratulations once again on winning the Pravasi Bharatiya Samman Award. And thank you very much for speaking to us, Atul. Wish you good luck. Looking forward to your 25 years and a longer journey ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Himanshu. Thank you for having me here.
That was definitely a very informative interview. Truly enjoyed doing it. If you liked it, please press the like button, share it ahead, and continue to follow us on Connected to India's YouTube channel. Thank you for watching.